Welcome to a deep dive, and this one is all about the Kawasaki Z1000. It's for you, and it's fueled by your own interest in this incredible machine. Picture this, you're ready to hit the open road, maybe turn some heads. You want a bike that's powerful and stylish. Well, that's where the Z1000 comes in. We've got a whole stack of articles, forum threads ready to unpack, and this deep dive, it's going to answer a big question: is this bike the right fit for you? I'm pumped for this one. We're kicking things off with a fantastic article from, I think it's one of the most popular motorcycle websites out there. You know the one, right? It captures that feeling of freedom, the thrill of the ride, and yeah, that head-turning style that comes with a bike like the Z1000. Okay, so first up, let's talk design. What really grabbed me in this article was the way they describe how the Z1000 looks. It's got this aggressive, almost predatory vibe, with the sharp lines and that muscular frame. It's definitely not a bike that's going to blend into the background.
Yeah, and what's really cool is that the Z1000's design isn't just about aesthetics, it's functional too. The article even explains how those sculpted lines, the low-slung profile, even the rider's position, all of that works together to enhance performance and rider comfort.
So it's not just a pretty face then. It's got the brains to match the brawn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to what's under the hood, a 1043cc four-cylinder engine. Now, this article, it raves about its responsiveness, the thrilling surge of power it delivers. They actually quote one rider who said it felt eager and alive, which I think really captures the personality of this engine.
Eager and alive. Okay, now you've got my attention. It's not just raw horsepower. It's got personality too. So I'm guessing that comes from how the engine delivers the power.
You're spot on. Reviewers love how the engine delivers power smoothly in the low to mid-range, which makes it fantastic for city riding, but it also has enough top-end grunts for those thrilling highway overtakes. It strikes a balance that you don't always find in this class of motorcycle.
Okay, I'm already picturing myself zipping through traffic, then opening it up on the open road. But a powerful engine is only one part of the equation, right? How does the Z1000 handle all that power? The article talks about its stability and control, and they mention the suspension system smoothing out bumps. I mean, it seems like Kawasaki put as much thought into the handling as they did into the engine.
Absolutely. Reviewers were really impressed with the Z1000's agility and how planted it feels, even when you know you're pushing it hard through corners. A lot of that comes from the lightweight frame, but also from the suspension setup.
Speaking of suspension, could you tell me a little bit more about that? I know it's important for handling and comfort, but suspension's not really my area of expertise. What should I be paying attention to here?
Great question. So the Z1000 uses a fairly standard telescopic fork setup at the front, pretty common for this type of bike. Now, reviewers generally said it's well-tuned and provides decent feedback to the rider, but a few felt that some bikes out there with more advanced adjustable suspension setups offered a smoother ride over bumps, particularly on those rougher roads.
Interesting. So it sounds like the suspension is capable, but maybe not the most sophisticated out there. Something to keep in mind. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk tech. I mean, a digital instrument panel, LED lighting. This bike seems pretty high tech. Is that something that really appeals to you?
Yeah, it's definitely a trend we're seeing more and more of in modern motorcycles. Manufacturers incorporating technology to enhance both the riding experience and safety. So the Z1000's digital display puts all the essential information right at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And that LED lighting, not only is it stylish, it improves visibility for night riding, which is a huge plus.
Yeah, that digital display sounds like it could be a game changer, especially for someone like me who likes to have all that information easily accessible.
Huh?
But let's talk about the other side of the coin, safety. The article mentions the anti-lock braking system, ABS. I know that's important, but can you remind me how it actually works?
Of course. ABS is a critical safety feature that helps prevent the wheels from locking up during hard braking. It does this by rapidly modulating brake pressure, which you might feel as a pulsing sensation in the brake lever. But essentially, it helps you maintain control of the bike, even in slippery conditions.
So if I have to brake hard, the ABS is going to kick in and help me avoid a skid. That's reassuring, especially if I'm riding in unpredictable conditions. What about other safety features? Anything else worth mentioning?
Well, beyond ABS, the Z1000 has a really robust frame and is built with high-quality materials. And all of that contributes to its overall safety and impact resistance. I think it's clear that Kawasaki has prioritized safety without compromising on performance.
That's great to hear. Knowing that the bike is designed with safety in mind definitely adds to the appeal. So we've covered design, that impressive engine, handling, and even safety features. But what's it actually like to ride this thing? The article includes some anecdotes from Z1000 owners, and they paint a pretty vivid picture. One rider described taking their bike on a long road trip, cruising effortlessly on highways, and enjoying the smooth ride on back roads. Another rider raved about how easy it was to navigate city traffic.
You know, those anecdotes are really valuable because they give you a glimpse into what it's like to actually live with the Z1000. I think they suggest that it's a bike that can handle a variety of riding situations, from commuting to weekend adventures.
Hearing those stories really makes me want to throw a leg over this bike and experience it for myself. But before we jump ahead to test rides, there are a few practical things we need to talk about.
Absolutely. Before you get too swept up in the excitement, let's talk about some crucial considerations that'll help you determine if the Z1000 is truly the right bike for you.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's get practical.
First and foremost, you need to take it for a test ride. There's simply no substitute for experiencing the Z1000 firsthand. Feel the power, test the handling, and see if it fits your body and your riding style.
Great advice, but where do I even begin?
I'd recommend researching local Kawasaki dealerships. Reach out to them, schedule a test ride. Maybe even connect with some Z1000 owner groups online. Hearing from other riders about their experiences can provide invaluable insights.
That's a fantastic tip. I'll definitely do that. Anything else I should be thinking about?
While you're researching dealerships and connecting with other riders, don't forget about maintenance. Regular upkeep is essential for any motorcycle, especially one as powerful as the Z1000.
Right. I want to keep this beauty in top shape for years to come. So we've talked about test rides, maintenance, but what about the other bikes out there? How does the Z1000 stack up against the competition?
Oh, that's a great question. And to answer it, we're going to dive into some comparisons with the Z1000's rivals in the next part of this deep dive. Get ready for a head-to-head showdown.
Sounds like things are about to get really interesting. I can't wait to see how the Z1000 measures up. We're back and ready for part 2 of our Z1000 deep dive. Last time, we explored the bike's design, that impressive engine. And we even touched on safety features, some practical advice like test rides and maintenance. But now, I think it's time to see how the Z1000 stacks up against its rivals.
Exactly. We've got a few key competitors in mind, all vying for attention from riders who crave power and style. But, before we get into those specific matchups, I think it's important to get a broader perspective.
Okay, I like where this is going. What kind of broader perspective are we talking about?
We've explored the Z1000 through, the lens of articles and expert reviews, which is great for getting that, foundational understanding. But I also wanted to tap into something a bit more raw and unfiltered, the voices of everyday riders.
You mean like people who actually own and ride Z1000s? I'm all for that. Where did you find those voices?
Online forums, of course. There's a whole world of, passionate motorcycle enthusiasts out there sharing their experiences, opinions, and sometimes even, heated debates about their bikes.
Oh, I can imagine. Forums can be a treasure trove of information, but also a bit of a Wild West sometimes. So what kind of insights did you find about the Z1000?
Let's just say the opinions were as diverse as the riders themselves. Some absolutely adore the Z1000, praising its raw power, the aggressive styling, and that feeling of pure adrenaline it delivers. They talk about the thrill of twisting the throttle and feeling that surge of acceleration.
You mentioned that you were drawn to the bike's aggressive styling. It seems like a lot of Z1000 owners feel the same way. I'm starting to see why you're so intrigued by this bike. But I'm guessing not every comment was glowing praise, right?
Right. While many riders were head over heels for the Z1000, others did express some concerns about its comfort level, especially for longer rides. Some found the seat to be a bit too firm, and a few mentioned that the riding position could feel cramped, especially for taller riders.
That's interesting. The article we read mentioned a comfortable seating position, but maybe that's subjective.
Absolutely. What one rider finds comfortable, another might find too stiff or cramped. It really highlights the importance of that test ride we talked about earlier. You really need to experience the Z1000 firsthand to see if it's a good fit for you.
Okay, so comfort seems to be a bit of a mixed bag depending on the rider. What other insights did you glean from the forums? Anything about fuel efficiency? That's something I'm always conscious of.
Great point. And one that came up quite a bit in the forums. Some riders felt that the Z1000 guzzled gas a bit too quickly, especially when compared to some of its rivals.
That's something to consider, especially if I'm planning on using it for commuting or longer trips. But I guess real-world fuel economy can vary depending on riding style and conditions, right?
Absolutely. And this is where those online owner groups that we mentioned earlier can be really helpful. You could connect with Z1000 owners directly and ask about their experiences with fuel consumption. They can give you a more realistic idea of what to expect.
Great tip. So it sounds like these forums provided a valuable reality check, adding some nuance to the Z1000's strengths and weaknesses. It's not just sunshine and rainbows, but real-world experiences, both good and bad.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of these deep dives. We're not just presenting you with a glossy brochure, we're giving you a 360-degree view, incorporating diverse perspectives to help you make a truly informed decision.
Speaking of informed decisions, I'm curious about how the Z1000's price compares to its competitors. I know we haven't gotten to specific models yet, but is it generally considered to be a good value for the money?
That's a great question, and one that sparks a lot of debate in the forums. You'll find a wide range of opinions on what constitutes value when it comes to motorcycles.
I can imagine. Value is such a personal concept. For some people, it might be all about performance and features, while others prioritize fuel efficiency, reliability, or even resale value.
You hit the nail on the head, and that's something I really want to emphasize. Before we even start comparing the Z1000 to its rivals, you need to define what you value most in a motorcycle. What are your non-negotiables? What are you willing to compromise on?
That's such an important point. The best motorcycle isn't necessarily the most expensive or the most powerful. It's the one that best aligns with your individual needs and priorities.
Precisely. And once you have a clear understanding of your own values, you can start to evaluate the Z1000 and its competitors in a more meaningful way.
This is really helpful. I'm starting to think about what matters most to me in a bike. But before we get too deep into that, there's one more thing I'm curious about. I noticed in the forums that a lot of Z1000 owners seem really passionate about customizing their bikes.
Ah, yes, customization. That's a whole other dimension of motorcycle ownership, and one that many Z1000 riders embrace with enthusiasm. They swap out exhaust systems for a throatier sound, upgrade the suspension for a sportier feel, add all sorts of aesthetic touches, you name it. It's like taking an already awesome bike and turning it into an extension of their personality.
That's so cool. I hadn't really considered that aspect before. It's like the Z1000 is a blank canvas ready to be personalized and transformed. I bet that adds a whole other layer of fun and enjoyment to the ownership experience.
It absolutely does, and it speaks to the Z1000's versatility. It's a bike that can be tailored to fit a wide range of riding styles and personal preferences. Whether you're a purist who wants to keep it stock or a tinkerer who loves to modify and upgrade, the Z1000 can accommodate your vision.
I'm really liking this idea of customization. It's like taking ownership to the next level. But before we get too carried away with aftermarket parts and performance mods, let's bring things back to the competition.
Right. We've got some serious contenders waiting in the wings, eager to challenge the Z1000's dominance. But before we dive into those specific matchups, I think we need to call in the experts.
You mean like you?
Well, yes, I'll be offering my insights, of course. But I'm also talking about professional motorcycle reviewers. They've spent countless hours riding and evaluating bikes, and their opinions carry a lot of weight in the motorcycle world.
That's a great point. I'm eager to hear what they have to say about the Z1000 and how it compares to the competition. Their insights are going to be crucial as we continue this deep dive and get closer to answering that big question, is the Z1000 the right bike for you?
Absolutely. So in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be tapping into the expertise of professional reviewers, dissecting their assessments of the Z1000, and analyzing how it stacks up against its rivals. Get ready for a showdown of power, performance, and style.
I'm ready. Let's bring on the experts. Okay, final round of our Z1000 deep dive. We've heard from articles, passionate forum users, and now it's time to bring in those professional motorcycle reviewers. The pros. I'm really curious to see what they highlight about this bike.
Yeah, I think you'll find their insights really interesting. They spend so much time riding and evaluating different motorcycles. They have this keen eye for detail and a really deep understanding of what makes a bike great.
Exactly. And this whole deep dive is about figuring out if the Z1000 is the right bike for you. So their opinions are going to be super helpful. So what really stood out to you from the reviews that you read?
Well, one thing that came up consistently was the Z1000's engine. Reviewers, they just rave about its responsiveness and the power it delivers. They often use words like eager and alive to describe it,
All right.
which are not terms you always associate with motorcycles in this class.
That's interesting. I hadn't really considered the engine's character before. Do you think that's something I'd appreciate as a rider?
I think so, especially given what you've said about wanting a bike that's thrilling and engaging to ride. Reviewers love how the Z1000's engine delivers power smoothly in that low to mid range, which makes it great for city riding. But it also has enough top-end grunt for thrilling highway overtakes. It's this balance that really sets it apart from some of its competitors.
Okay, I'm definitely starting to see why this engine gets so much praise. But a great engine is only part of the story, right? What did the reviewers have to say about the Z1000's handling?
Handling was another high point. Reviewers, they consistently praise its agility and how planted and stable it feels, even when pushed hard through corners, several reviewers specifically mentioned how well it performs on winding roads. Makes sense given that lightweight frame and sporty suspension setup.
Oh, I can imagine leaning into a corner on a mountain road, feeling the feedback from the Z1000's responsive chassis through the handlebars. That's the kind of connection this bike seems to offer.
Exactly. It's a bike that wants to be ridden, and it rewards those riders who are willing to push it a bit. But it's not just about performance. The reviewers also had some positive things to say about the Z1000's tech features.
That's right. We haven't talked about the tech in a while. What were the reviewers' thoughts on the digital instrument panel and the LED lighting?
Most reviewers found the digital instrument panel to be clear and easy to read, even in bright sunlight. They appreciated having all that essential information readily available at a glance. However, there were a few who felt that the menu system could be a bit more intuitive to navigate.
Right, technology is great, but it needs to be user-friendly too. What about the LED lighting? Did that get a thumbs up?
Absolutely. The LED lighting was well received. Reviewers praised its brightness and effectiveness for night riding, and they liked that modern aesthetic it adds to the bike's overall design.
It sounds like Kawasaki's done a good job integrating technology in a way that enhances both the riding experience and safety. But let's be honest, no motorcycle is perfect. Did the reviewers point out any drawbacks or areas where the Z1000 falls short?
There were a few areas where the Z1000 received some criticism. One recurring theme, which we also heard from some forum users, was rider comfort. Some reviewers found the seat to be a bit too firm for long rides, and a few mentioned that the riding position could feel cramped, for taller riders.
So comfort seems to be subjective, and potentially a weakness for the Z1000, especially for longer rides or taller riders. Definitely reinforces the importance of that test ride, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
You need to sit on the bike, feel the riding position, and see if it's a good fit for your body type and riding style. What feels comfortable for one rider might be uncomfortable for another.
Okay, noted. What are the other criticisms? Anything else stand out?
Yeah, a few reviewers felt that the Z1000 suspension, while capable, isn't quite as sophisticated as some of its competitors. They noted that it can be a bit harsh over bumps, especially when compared to bikes with those more advanced adjustable suspension systems.
So maybe not the ideal choice for, off-road adventures or tackling really rough terrain.
Probably not. It's designed more for street riding and handling well-paved roads, but remember, those criticisms need to be weighed against the Z1000 strengths and its overall value proposition.
And speaking of value, what was the general consensus among the reviewers? Is the Z1000 considered to be a good value for the money?
Yeah, for the most part. Reviewers generally felt that the Z1000 offers a lot of bang for the buck, especially when you consider that powerful engine, agile handling, and stylish design. They acknowledge that it's not the cheapest bike in its class, but they argue that the combination of performance, features, and overall quality makes it a worthwhile investment.
That's great to hear. It sounds like the Z1000 delivers on its promises and offers a compelling package for riders who prioritize performance and style without breaking the bank.
Exactly. And remember, we've also talked about the Z1000's potential for customization. That's another factor that can add to its value proposition, allowing you to personalize the bike and make it truly your own.
So if we're summing this all up, it sounds like the Z1000 has a lot going for it. A thrilling engine, agile handling, confidence-inspiring safety features, modern tech, and all at a competitive price. But it might not be the most comfortable for long rides, and the suspension might not be as plush as some of its rival.
You got it. And I think it's important to emphasize that these are just opinions, from the reviewers and from the forum users we discussed earlier. The best way to truly understand the Z1000 is to experience it for yourself.
Exactly. Go for that test ride, feel the power, test the handling, and see if it, sparks joy for you. Ultimately, that's what matters most. Does this bike speak to you? Does it ignite your passion for riding?
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question. Imagine yourself on the Z1000, wind in your hair, engine roaring. Where would you go? What kind of adventures would you seek out?
What roads would you conquer? What memories would you make? Let that image guide you as you explore the possibilities of motorcycle ownership and the thrill of the open road.
And remember, this deep dive, it's just the beginning of your journey. If you have more questions, need further guidance, or simply want to share your motorcycle dreams, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help you navigate the world of motorcycles and find that perfect ride for you.
Happy riding!